let's get going with level 1. Find the length of side A of the triangle. All right, find the length of side A of the triangle. All right, so the first thing is, maybe I want to rotate this, right? So I click down and rotate like that. So 2 fingers and you can rotate. And then with a single finger you can drag it to where you want it to be. With 2 fingers you can stretch it or shrink it down. So we know that the sine of our angle is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Okay, so knowing that, we can say that the sine of 58 degrees is equal to the opposite side. Okay, now the opposite side, it means opposite the angle. So if we walk away from that angle, it's the side we smack into. So this is our opposite side. This is our hypotenuse. Now the hypotenuse is always the longest side of the right angle triangle. Okay, and it's always directly opposite of the right angle. So if we walk away from the right angle, it's the side that we smack into. Okay, so this is the opposite. That's the hypotenuse. This side's called the adjacent. So adjacent just means beside. Okay, and so it's beside this angle, but it's not the hypotenuse. Therefore, it's the adjacent. Okay, so opposite of hypotenuse is sine. So the sine of 58 degrees is the opposite, which is our A side, over our hypotenuse, which is 19.96 millimeters. So 19.96. All right, now I'm trying to solve for A, so I'm just going to cross multiply the 19.96 out of there. So I'm going to get 19.96 times the sine of 58 degrees is equal to A. All right, so that's all there is to it. So handy dandy calculator time. So 19.96 times 58 degrees sine is equal to 16.927. So 16.927, and the units are millimeters, is equal to A. Okay, so 16.927 millimeters. All right, so let's go back to our program. So 16.927 space millimeters. Then to check to see if we're right on the check sign, and we click on the check sign to check to see if we're right, and we're right. Okay, let's look at another example. So we want to figure out side A, and it's the opposite side again, so we can say that the sine of theta is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Okay, so let's label this triangle. All right, here's our right angle triangle, our right angle. So this is going to, opposite the right angle is going to be our hypotenuse. So this is our hypotenuse. If we're talking about this angle here, so opposite it is the opposite side. Okay, so we're just going to come all the way down here, and this is our opposite side. Okay, leaving this side to be our adjacent side. Okay, adjacent means beside. It's beside the angle, but not the hypotenuse. So sine of 23 is the opposite side. That's our A, it's our unknown, over our hypotenuse, which is 27.4 millimeters. Okay, and to get my A alone, I'm going to cross multiply the 27.4. So I have 27.4 times sine of 23 is A. All right, so handy dandy calculator time. 27.4 times 23 degrees sine equals, so 10.706 is equal to A. All right, back to the program. So 10.706 millimeters, and we click on the check button to check to see if we're right. Yay!